Admiral Elena Torres stood at the viewport of the TSS Artemis, watching the stars streak by as her fleet conducted its routine patrol of humanity's outer colonies. 20 years of deep space experience had taught her to trust her instincts, and right now, they were screaming that something was different. "Admiral," Lieutenant Park's voice cut through her contemplation. "We're picking up unusual energy signatures at the edge of the Proxima system." Torres turned from the viewport, her weathered face reflecting in the polished surface of the bridge's tactical display. "Classification? That's the thing, ma'am. They don't match anything in our database, but they're definitely artificial. And big. Really big." Before Torres could respond, the space before them erupted in a cascade of light. Massive ships emerged from what appeared to be fold space portals, their hulls gleaming with an iridescent material unknown to human science. The vessels dwarfed the Artemis and her escort fleet, their designs suggesting both beauty and devastating power. "Battle stations," Torres ordered calmly, though she made no move to raise shields or arm weapons. 2 decades of exploration had taught humanity that sometimes the best defense was simply patience. The alien fleet arranged itself in a perfect geometric formation, a display of coordination that would have been impossible for human ships. A communication request pinged across all frequencies. "Let's hear what they have to say," Torres nodded to her communications officer. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing a tall, elegant being with crystalline features and eyes that seemed to contain swirling galaxies. When it spoke, its words were automatically translated by the ship's AI. "Attention unauthorized vessels. You have entered space claimed by the Galactic Confederation. Your presence here violates Protocol 7249 of the Expansion Directive. Power down your systems and prepare for inspection and cataloging." Torres raised an eyebrow, sharing a quick glance with her bridge crew. They'd encountered their fair share of advanced civilizations, but none had ever opened with quite such bureaucratic confidence. "This is Admiral Elena Torres of the Terran Space Service. We were unaware of any territorial claims in this region, as we've been operating here for the past 50 years without incident." She paused, allowing a slight smile. "Perhaps your maps are outdated?" The crystalline being's features shifted in what might have been confusion or irritation. "Impossible. The Confederation's cartographic systems are perfect. We have no record of any spacefaring civilization in this sector." "Well," Torres replied, leaning casually against her command chair, "that's embarrassing for your perfect systems, isn't it? Because we've got about 30 colonies and trading posts in this region alone. Would you like their coordinates? Might help you update those maps." The alien's response came with an edge of threat. "Your attempt at deception is noted. Our scans indicate your vessels utilize primitive fusion drives and basic particle shielding. You cannot have been operating in this space for 50 years. The radiation alone would have destroyed your ships." Torres actually chuckled at that, causing several of her crew to hide their own grins. "Ah, I see the issue here. You're scanning our external systems. Common mistake. Most species do that at first." She nodded to her tactical officer, who transmitted a small data packet to the alien fleet. "Those are the public specifications for our entry-level colony ships. Might help explain a few things." The alien commander's crystalline features fractured slightly as they processed the information. This cannot be correct. You're suggesting your vessels operate on multiple technological paradigms simultaneously?" "Among other things," Torres shrugged. "We found early on that sticking to a single technological approach was limiting. Why use just fusion when you can combine it with zero-point energy? Why settle for particle shields when you can layer them with quantum fields? Humanity's pretty big on redundancy. And experimenting. Mostly experimenting." The alien fleet's formation shifted slightly, their perfect geometry showing its first signs of uncertainty. "Your development path is chaotic, disordered. It defies the natural progression of technological advancement. Does it? Torres asked, genuine curiosity in her voice. Or is that just what you were taught to believe? Because from where we're sitting, limiting yourself to a single developmental track seems like the chaotic choice. The universe is full of possibilities, why not explore them all? The alien commander's response was cut off by an urgent signal from one of their support vessels. The crystalline being's features shifted rapidly as they received new information. Our deep scans are detecting, but you have antimatter containment systems alongside chemical rockets? Quantum computers running in parallel with binary processors? This violates every principle of technological progression. Torres stood, straightening her uniform. Look, I'm sure your Confederation has a very orderly way of doing things. And that's great, it really is. But humanity? We're more of a throw everything at the wall and see what sticks kind of species. Sometimes literally, you wouldn't believe how many of our breakthroughs came from scientists basically saying, I wonder what happens if I do this. The alien fleet's formation had completely dissolved now, their ships drifting in what almost looked like confusion. Torres decided it was time to drive the point home. For example, she continued, right now you're probably wondering why your scans can't penetrate certain sections of our ships. That's because we couldn't decide between phase-shifting technology and dimensional folding for our sensitive areas, so we, kind of used both. Created quite a mess in R&D for a while, but eventually someone figured out they could work together if you just ignored about half the laws of physics. The crystalline commander's next words came slowly, as if they were struggling with the concepts. Your species, intentionally combines incompatible technologies. And survives? Survives? Torres laughed. We thrive on it. Look, why don't we start over? You clearly have plenty to teach us about organized technological development, and we might have a few ideas about thinking outside the box. What do you say? Partners instead of inspectors? The alien commander was silent for a long moment, their crystalline features refracting light in complex patterns. When they spoke again, their tone had shifted from authoritative to something approaching wonder. Perhaps the Confederation's protocols need updating. Your species presents unique opportunities for study. And you haven't even seen our really weird stuff yet, Torres grinned. Wait until you hear about our entertainment systems. We still use something called analog vinyl, alongside quantum holographics. Drives our engineers crazy, but some people swear it sounds better. As the tension dissolved into tentative diplomatic exchanges, Torres couldn't help but feel proud. Humanity had once again proved that their greatest strength wasn't any particular technology or weapon, it was their relentless desire to try new things, no matter how impossible they seemed. It was just another day for the human race, confounding alien civilizations not through superior force or advanced technology, but simply by being too stubborn to accept that some things couldn't be done. High Counselor Vexterra stood before the Confederation's Emergency Council, their crystalline form pulsing with barely contained agitation. The chamber, normally a model of geometric perfection, was in disarray as council members from 100 species argued over the latest reports from the human sector. The data cannot be disputed, Vexterra's voice resonated through the chamber, silencing the chaos. In the 3 months since first contact, human technological integration has exceeded every predictive model we possess. They are not merely ignoring the established paths of progress, they are actively defying them. The holographic display at the chamber's center showed footage from a recent diplomatic exchange. A human research vessel, appearing almost crude by Confederation standards, casually demonstrated a propulsion system that combined antimatter drives with something they called solar sails, a concept so primitive it belonged in pre-spaceflight societies. But how? Demanded Counselor Zuandaz, their gaseous form swirling in confusion. Our civilization spent millennia perfecting each technological tier before advancing. The humans simply mix everything together. Worse, Vexterra replied. They deliberately seek out technological combinations that should be impossible. Observer reports indicate their scientists actually celebrate when they discover incompatibilities between systems. The chamber erupted again as footage played of a human engineer explaining their latest innovation, a weapon that combined directed energy beams with chemical projectiles, guided by both quantum computers and what they termed good old-fashioned ballistics. This defies all natural law, protested a silicon-based counselor. Each technological path must be mastered before progression can occur. It is the way of the universe. Vextera's crystalline structure shifted, displaying patterns that indicated deep concern. Perhaps we have been too rigid in our understanding of universal law. The humans have achieved things our scientists declared impossible, simply because they never accepted those declarations. The council chamber darkened as new footage appeared, a human colony world where towering arcologies of advanced materials stood alongside buildings of carved stone and wood. Vehicles powered by fusion cores shared roads with mechanical devices driven by internal combustion, while citizens carried quantum communicators in cases made of leather and brass. They call it technological diversity, Vextera explained. Their philosophy suggests that no technology is truly obsolete if it serves a purpose. They actively preserve and integrate ancient methods with their most advanced developments. But the inefficiency, protested another counselor. The chaos of maintaining so many different technological bases. And yet, Vextera countered, their rate of innovation exceeds ours by several orders of magnitude. While we perfect a single path, they explore thousands. Most fail, yes, but those that succeed. The display showed a human medical facility where nanobots worked alongside traditional surgery, where healing accelerators operated in tandem with what humans still called physical therapy. The real concern, Vextera continued, is not their technological approach, but what it reveals about their species as a whole. They are not bound by our constraints, physical or mental. They do not accept limitations. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. A species that casually ignored the established rules of technological progress might just as easily ignore other conventions the Confederation held sacred. There's more, Vextera added, their crystalline form dimming. We've detected evidence that they're already adapting some of our technologies into their hybrid systems. A lunar colony recently unveiled a gravity manipulation system that combines our fold space principles with what they call rotational artificial gravity, essentially spinning their habitat while manipulating spatial dimensions. How? Demanded several counselors at once. Their explanation was, and I quote, "We thought it would be interesting to try." When our observers pointed out the theoretical impossibility, the humans simply shrugged and said, "Theory is catching up." The display shifted to show a human space station where Confederation delegates were being given a tour. The humans had modified their universal translators to include what they called cultural context subroutines, technology that shouldn't have been possible for centuries according to the Confederation's development models. We must decide how to proceed, Vextera concluded. The humans have requested increased technological exchange and closer diplomatic ties. But I warn you, they will not be content to simply learn our ways. They will question everything, experiment with everything, combine our most sacred technological principles with their chaos of innovation. A younger counselor, their energy form brightening with excitement, spoke up. Perhaps that is exactly what we need. Our progress has slowed in recent centuries. We perfect what we know, but we rarely discover anything truly new. Vextera's form pulsed in acknowledgement. A valid point. But consider this, if humans can achieve such results by ignoring our established laws of technological progress, what other universal laws might they choose to challenge? The chamber fell silent again as the implications sank in. The footage continued to play, showing humans going about their daily lives, seemingly oblivious to the fact that their very existence challenged everything the Confederation believed about the nature of progress and possibility. We cannot stop them, Vextera said finally. Their development follows no pattern we can predict or control. We can only decide whether to embrace their chaos or try to contain it. But remember, they have achieved all this without access to our higher technologies. What will they do once we begin sharing our knowledge? The council chamber erupted in debate once more, but Vexterra noticed something interesting. For the first time in centuries, the arguments weren't about maintaining order, they were about exploring possibilities. Perhaps, they mused, the humans were already changing the Confederation, whether they intended to or not. The warning had been delivered. But somehow, it felt less like a threat and more like the beginning of something new. Something unpredictable. Something human. The Confederation's Grand Exhibition Hall sparkled with technological marvels from across the galaxy. Supreme Commander Wyexthor stood proudly before the assembled human delegation, their energy form radiating confidence. After months of debate, the Council had decided to demonstrate the true extent of Confederation advancement. Surely, even these unpredictable humans would be awed by their greatest achievements. Behold, Wyexthor announced, gesturing toward a sleek device that seemed to bend light around itself, the pinnacle of Confederation quantum engineering. A true artificial intelligence, capable of processing power that your species won't achieve for at least 1,000 years of normal development. Dr. Sarah Chen, the head of the human delegation, stepped forward. Rather than the expected awe, her expression showed only curiosity, and was that amusement in her eyes? Interesting approach, she said, pulling out what appeared to be an ancient tablet computer held together with duct tape and glowing crystals. Mind if we run a few comparative algorithms? Wyexthor's energy form flickered in confusion. That device appears to be malfunctioning. We can provide you with proper testing equipment. Oh, this old thing. Sarah grinned, patting the jury-rigged tablet. It's one of our portable hybrid computing systems. We basically took a quantum processor, merged it with some classic silicon chips, added a dash of biocomputing, and wrapped it all in a user-friendly package. The duct tape helps keep the dimensional bleeding to a minimum. The Confederation scientists in attendance began registering alarm as Sarah's old thing began performing calculations that should have been impossible for anything short of their most advanced systems. But the processing architecture. One scientist stammered. Is a mess, Sarah agreed cheerfully. Technically, half the components shouldn't work together at all. But we found that if you add a little organic processing matrix, grown from modified yeast, believe it or not, it sort of mediates between the quantum and classical systems. The yeast was actually my kid's science fair project. Who knew it would work so well? Wyexthor quickly moved the delegation to the next exhibit, a massive weapons platform that could theoretically destroy a small moon. Our most advanced defensive technology, they announced, trying to regain control of the situation. Capable of channeling the power of artificial singularities. Captain James Rodriguez of the human military contingent stepped forward this time, squinting at the weapon. Neat. Kind of like our point defense systems, but bigger. This is not a point defense system, Wyexthor corrected, their energy form pulsing with irritation. This is a strategic deterrent capable of. Yeah, artificial singularities, got it, Rodriguez interrupted. We experimented with those. Found they work better on a smaller scale, though. More precise. We actually miniaturized the technology and combined it with traditional kinetic barriers. Works great for shooting down incoming fire. He pulled out what looked like a primitive projectile weapon with various glowing attachments haphazardly secured to it. See? This personal sidearm combines singularity manipulation, kinetic impact, and good old-fashioned gunpowder. The recoil's a bit tricky, but it's great for those situations when you absolutely, positively need to delete something from existence. The Confederation security detail moved nervously away from the human captain and his impossible weapon. Wyexthor, growing desperate, led the delegation to their final exhibit, a massive chamber containing what appeared to be a tear in reality itself. Our greatest achievement, they declared. A controlled dimensional aperture. We are the only civilization to have mastered transdimensional engineering at this scale. Sarah and Rodriguez shared a look before Sarah spoke. About that. You might want to stabilize the quantum fluctuations in the upper quadrant. It's looking a bit wobbly. Impossible, snapped a Confederation physicist. The aperture is perfectly calibrated according to 3,000 years of theoretical development. Sure, if you're using standard transdimensional theory, Sarah agreed. But we found that reality gets a bit cranky if you follow the rules too closely. Sometimes you need to let the math get a little weird. She pulled out her tablet again, now sprouting what appeared to be additional antennae made of copper wire and crystal. See? Your containment field is operating on pure quantum principles, but dimensional boundaries respond better to a hybrid approach. We usually throw in some electromagnetic manipulation, a bit of gravitational tweaking, and sometimes. She paused, squinting at her readings. Yeah, thought so. You're completely ignoring the psychic resonance factor. The what? Chorused several Confederation scientists. Psychic resonance. You know, the way consciousness interacts with dimensional boundaries. No. Ha. Sarah looked genuinely surprised. We thought that was basic transdimensional physics. It's why we always include organic components in our dimensional tech. Really helps smooth things out. As if to prove her point, the dimensional aperture flickered ominously. The Confederation scientists rushed to stabilize it while Sarah pulled a small device from her pocket that looked like it had been assembled from spare parts and crystalline growths. Here, she offered, one of our portable dimension stabilizers. It's not much, just some quantum tech merged with primitive electromagnetic fields and a bit of crystalline consciousness integration, but it should help. The scientists stared at the device in horror even as their readings confirmed it was already stabilizing their supposedly perfect aperture. Yxthor's energy form had dimmed considerably. The demonstration meant to humble the humans had instead revealed just how far behind the Confederation might actually be, not in raw technology, but in the willingness to experiment, to combine, to ignore the supposed rules of progress. How, they finally asked. How do you advance so chaotically yet achieve such results? Sarah shrugged, already tinkering with her tablet again. Honestly? We just try stuff. Most of it fails spectacularly. You should see our testing facilities, they're basically dedicated explosion rooms now. But when something works. She grinned. Well, let's just say we're big fans of the yes, and School of Technological Development. As the human delegation moved on, chattering excitedly about potential improvements to various Confederation technologies, Yxthor realized that the true exhibition had come from the humans themselves. They hadn't just shown up to observe Confederation technology, they'd come to demonstrate that the path to advancement might not be as linear as the galaxy had always believed. The escalation hadn't gone as planned, but perhaps that was the most human lesson of all. The Confederation's primary research institute had never seen such chaos. Centuries of perfectly organized laboratories had been transformed into what the humans cheerfully called innovation spaces. Equipment from a dozen technological epochs sat side by side, while researchers from both species worked together in ways that defied all conventional wisdom. Director Yxtel, once the model of Confederation precision, now stood in their transformed facility with their crystalline structure showing unmistakable signs of excitement. Beside them, Dr. Sarah Chen was explaining their latest breakthrough to a stunned council delegation. It's really quite simple, Sarah said, gesturing to what appeared to be a quantum computer housed in a steampunk-inspired brass casing. We found that when you stop treating different technological paradigms as separate evolutionary steps and start seeing them as complementary tools, whole new possibilities open up. But the protocols, protested one council member. The established progression of. With respect, Yxtel interrupted, their voice carrying new confidence, we're beginning to understand that our protocols were more restrictive than instructive. Observe. They activated the device, which hummed to life with a combination of quantum efficiency and mechanical beauty. Holographic displays sprang up, showing data flows that somehow married quantum processing with analog computation, all controlled through an interface that combined touchscreens with physical levers and dials. We call it technological synthesis, Sarah explained. The quantum core handles the heavy computing, while the analog systems provide redundancy and a more intuitive user interface. Plus, she added with a grin, the brass fittings just look cool. A younger council member floated forward, their energy form bright with curiosity. But how do you determine which technologies to combine? Surely there must be some system, some organization to the chaos. That's the beauty of it, HFY responded, surprising everyone with their enthusiasm. The chaos is the system. Human innovation isn't about following a predetermined path, it's about trying every path simultaneously and finding unexpected connections. The laboratory around them demonstrated this principle in action. In one corner, Confederation scientists worked alongside human engineers to integrate crystalline computing with neural networks. In another, ancient mechanical principles were being applied to improve the efficiency of antimatter containment systems. We've had to completely revolutionize our safety protocols, Sarah admitted. When you're combining technologies that technically shouldn't work together, things can get interesting. But that's half the fun. As if to prove her point, a minor explosion echoed from a nearby testing chamber, followed by excited cheering from both human and Confederation researchers. Don't worry, Sarah assured the startled council members. That's why we installed the containment fields. And the backup containment fields. And the backup containment fields. Redundancy is kind of our thing. But this approach to development, another council member protested, it violates every principle of technological progression we've established over millennia. Does it though? HFY challenged, their crystalline form pulsing with new patterns of thought. Or did we simply assume our path was the only path? Look at what we've achieved in just months of collaboration. They brought up a holographic display showing recent developments, faster-than-light drives that combined Confederation fold space technology with human warp field theory, medical treatments that merged advanced nanobots with traditional healing practices, communication systems that operated on both quantum and classical principles simultaneously. The humans haven't just shown us new technologies, HFY continued. They've shown us new ways of thinking about technology itself. Every failure teaches us something. Every impossible combination that somehow works challenges our assumptions about what's possible. Sarah nodded, already tinkering with another hybrid device. That's the real breakthrough, isn't it? Not any single technology, but the freedom to experiment, to fail, to try things that shouldn't work. The council members watched as human and Confederation scientists worked together, their different approaches to problem solving creating something entirely new. The humans' willingness to experiment freely had somehow infected their Confederation colleagues, breaking down millennia of rigid thinking. We're not just combining technologies, HFY realized aloud. We're combining methodologies, philosophies, entire approaches to understanding the universe. A massive success indicator lit up from one of the research stations, followed by more cheering. A team had just successfully merged Confederation energy manipulation with human mechanical engineering, creating something that defied all existing classification systems. And the best part? Sarah added, her eyes shining with excitement. We're just getting started. Wait until you see what happens when we really start pushing the boundaries. The council members exchanged looks that mixed concern with growing enthusiasm. The ordered, predictable progression of technology they had known for so long was transforming into something new, something more chaotic, yes, but also more vibrant, more alive. Understanding was dawning across the Confederation, not just about human technology, but about the nature of progress itself. The future wouldn't be found in careful, controlled steps forward, but in bold leaps in every direction at once. And somehow, that seemed exactly right. The Grand Council chamber of the Confederation had been redesigned. Gone were the rigid geometric patterns and perfect symmetry, replaced by a harmonious blend of Confederation precision and human creativity. Crystal matrices pulsed alongside mechanical clockworks, while quantum fields danced with simple electromagnetic barriers. High Counselor Vextera stood before the assembled representatives of both civilizations, their crystalline form displaying patterns never before seen in their species, a physical manifestation of how much things had changed. 1 year ago, they began, we encountered a species that challenged everything we believed about technological progress. Today, we gather to formalize a partnership that will reshape the galaxy. Admiral Elena Torres, now Earth's primary representative to the Confederation, sat casually in a chair that combined advanced gravitational suspension with old-fashioned springs, a perfect symbol of the new relationship between the civilizations. The Technological Integration Treaty, Vextera continued, represents more than just an agreement between our peoples. It represents a fundamental shift in how we view progress itself. The chamber's displays showed scenes from across both civilizations, Confederation cities where crystalline spires now housed steam-powered elevators, human colonies where ancient stone architecture contained the most advanced quantum computing cores, shipyards where vessels were being constructed using principles from a dozen different technological eras simultaneously. We feared chaos, Vextera admitted. We feared the humans' seemingly random approach to advancement would destabilize millennia of careful progress. Instead, we found that chaos and order could coexist, could strengthen each other. Torres stood, her uniform a blend of traditional human military styling and Confederation energy-reactive materials. What we've created together goes beyond technology, she added. It's a new way of thinking about possibility itself. The displays shifted to show the latest achievements of their combined research teams, weapons that had been converted to energy production tools, medical technologies that could heal body and mind simultaneously, communication systems that operated on principles neither civilization had imagined possible a year ago. But perhaps most importantly, Torres continued, we've learned from each other. Humans have gained an appreciation for the value of careful testing and theoretical foundation, while the Confederation has embraced the power of intuitive leaps and unconventional combinations. A holographic demonstration appeared in the chamber's center, showing their latest joint project, a ship that defied traditional classification. It incorporated everything from solar sails to quantum drives, mechanical gears to crystalline computers, all working together in what should have been impossible harmony. The FSS Synthesis, Vextera announced, our first jointly developed exploration vessel. A ship that represents not just the combination of our technologies, but the marriage of our philosophies. The assembled representatives watched as the ship performed maneuvers that broke half a dozen supposed laws of physics, all while maintaining perfect stability through what the humans called elegant kludging, the art of making impossible combinations work through sheer determination and creative engineering. Some said our civilizations were too different, Torres remarked. That the Confederation's ordered approach could never mesh with humanity's chaos. They were right, we didn't mesh. We did something better. We evolved. The chamber's displays showed learning centers where human children worked alongside young Confederation beings, each teaching the other their way of viewing the universe. Research facilities where failed experiments were celebrated as much as successes, each teaching something new about the boundaries of possibility. The galaxy is changing, Vextera concluded. Already, other civilizations are beginning to experiment with technological synthesis. The rigid paths of progress we once thought universal are branching, combining, creating new possibilities we never imagined. And that's just the beginning, Torres added with a characteristic human grin. Wait until they see what we're working on next. The chamber erupted in a mixture of traditional Confederation harmonic acknowledgement and human applause, a cacophony that somehow worked, just like everything else about their partnership. As the ceremony concluded, Vextera approached Torres privately. There is one thing I still don't understand, they admitted. How did humans first discover that incompatible technologies could work together? Torres laughed. We didn't discover it. We just never accepted they were incompatible in the first place. Once you stop believing in limitations, you'd be amazed what's possible. Vextera's crystalline form shimmered with new understanding. Perhaps that is humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy, not your technology, but your refusal to accept impossibility. Maybe, Torres agreed. But I'd say the Confederation's gift of showing us how to be systematic about our chaos is just as valuable. Together, we're not just advancing technology, we're advancing possibility itself. Above them, the FSS Synthesis prepared for its maiden voyage, its impossible systems working in perfect harmony. It was a ship that should not have existed, created by a partnership that should not have worked, about to explore regions of space that should not have been accessible. In other words, it was exactly what both humanity and the Confederation needed, a reminder that the best way to predict the future was to create it, one impossible innovation at a time.